Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dan Rayfield, Attorney General for the state of Oregon. We're proud to bring this case today. I think there was something that was incredibly important that was said today, and it wasn't said by any of our attorneys. It was said by President Donald Trump, Solicitor General, when he looked Justice Roberts squarely in the eyes and said the American people, not foreign countries, but the American people are going to pay 30 to 80% of these tariffs, and then had the gall to look all of those justices again in the eye and say that these are not taxes on the American people. And they're doing it by abusing an emergency power. And I think that was the conversation that we heard today. Very proud of our attorneys and proud to have these amazing partners in AG Mayes and AG Bonta along in this incredibly important fight when America's facing an affordability crisis.
Thank you, AG Rayfield. I'm Kris Mayes. I'm the Attorney General of Arizona, and I would just echo those comments. This was, we feel really good about the arguments today and the questions that were asked by the justices. But, you know, we brought this case, and this case is so important. Maybe the most important case that this court has heard in 100 years, especially to our economy and to consumers and to businesses large and small. And that's why we brought this case, because number one, these tariffs are illegal. They were not predicated in the law or the Constitution, but most importantly, they are impacting the people of our states. We have small businesses in Arizona that are going out of business every day. I've talked to a furniture manufacturer, a restaurateur, a hotel owner, cattle ranchers along the southern border of Arizona, all of whom are struggling because of these tariffs and because they are raising prices on the people of this country. And so we needed to come here and we need to win this case, and that's why we're here. We appreciate the opportunity to make these arguments, and I'll turn it over to my colleague Rob Bonta.
Thank you, everyone. Rob Bonta, California Attorney General, and grateful to be here with my colleagues on behalf of the states that have brought suit to support the American people who deserve better, who deserve to not have costs raised, who deserve to not be the victims of unlawful tariffs. Tariffs are taxes. Congress has the power to impose taxes. The president does not. He has used tariffs in a sweeping manner to impose 10 to 145% taxes on nearly every one of our trade partners, and workers are suffering, businesses are suffering, families across the country are suffering because of his unlawful conduct. And California is the fourth largest economy in the world, the biggest state in the nation. We are the largest importer of any state, the second largest exporter, the largest exporter of ag. We're the biggest manufacturer. We have an outsized economy, so these tariffs have an outsized impact on the people of our state and on our state. So I thought the argument surfaced all the key issues, and we are hopeful for a decision. We won't predict or speculate about what might happen, but I thought it was a great argument, and we hope that when the decision is made by the Supreme Court, we will be able to deliver the relief that Americans deserve, to have their costs lowered and not have a president who acts brazenly and blatantly in lawless manners, as he has done with the violation of the law here, when he has no statutory authority to impose these taxes. And we're happy to answer your questions.
Attorney General Mayes?
Yes.
You joined or filed 30 different lawsuits since January, since Trump came in for a second term.
Rob's filed more. So is Dan,
True.
but anyway. But who's counting?
You mentioned the impact this could have on everyday Arizonans. What's at stake if this lawsuit in particular, when it comes to tariffs, isn't successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think all three of us feel a very heavy burden today because we know that we have to win this case. What is at stake for the state of Arizona, like all the states, frankly, is that prices, if we don't win and these tariffs are allowed to stay in place, prices are going to continue to go up. These are taxes. Americans are now dealing with an average 17.5% national sales tax because of these tariffs. That's what this is. And so what's going to happen is consumers are going to continue to pay more. It's going to be a really rough Thanksgiving. It's going to be a really rough Christmas and holiday season. And our small businesses are going to continue to go out of business if these tariffs are allowed to stay in place. And so the stakes of this particular argument could not possibly be higher for our country and for our economy.
I'm Senior Spy with Political Evening News. Could you share a little bit more about what the justices said today about the major question doctrine?
I mean, I'll take that first, but I thought it was really interesting. There were obviously multiple justices who raised the major questions doctrine issue. This is a court that has favored the idea that when an agency does something that is extraordinary and major, it cannot do so without going to Congress first. And a couple of the justices compared the tariff scheme that Trump put in place to a major question or the major question doctrine. I thought that was a really good sign. We'll see. Again, we're not going to predict anything, but I thought it was a good sign for the plaintiffs, for us.
Speaking of all those dozen of cases, some critics argue that some of your lawsuits are driven by the partisan motive. How do you respond to that?
By what?
Partisan motive.
Oh, look, I mean, and I'll let my colleagues answer this too. Our lawsuits are driven by the law and by the Constitution. Look, is it on my bucket list to sue Donald Trump? Absolutely not. This is not what I get up every day wanting to do. But if Donald Trump decides to violate the Constitution, violate statute, or harm the people of Arizona, I'm going to file that lawsuit. And the 30 lawsuits that I have entered the state of Arizona into have saved the state of Arizona $1.5 billion. And it's interesting that the Republican AGs are not filing these lawsuits, and as a result, their people are losing billions of dollars.
And I would also just, when you look at the partisan thing, look at we're talking about whether any lawsuit is partisan. We have a very sterile analysis. Are Oregonians being harmed? If the answer is yes, is the Constitution or law being violated? If the answer to those two questions are yes, we're filing a lawsuit. And what everybody should note is in all of these cases where we've sought immediate relief, we've been overwhelmingly successful. Look at this tariff case right now. We have judges that were appointed by Trump, multiple judges, that ruled in our favor, because these are foundational principles of how our democracy is put together. And I think you saw that here today, that a lot of this stuff, it doesn't matter where you come from, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. These are incredibly important issues that are affecting all of us. And right now it's our pocketbooks.
Justice Alito mentioned the irony of Neil Katyal arguing in favor of the non-delegation doctrine. If you could speak to the broader irony of having a Republican president arguing in favor of what is arguably tax increases, and Democratic lawyers arguing using the major question doctrine and non-delegation doctrine, and just kind of the broader kind of inversion at play there.
I mean, I would just say that if you watch the Netflix, what is the thing that we're in the world of the upside down, right? You have
Stranger Things.
Yeah, Stranger Things, right? We're in the world of the upside down. If you go back to Ronald Reagan, and Canada was doing this, right? They're literally putting ads on TV of Ronald Reagan, and then our president, gets incredibly sensitive. He's thin-skinned, and then all of a sudden he increases tariffs again. What a better argument for what's going on right now. But effectively, tariffs can be a very helpful tool in trade when you have someone that's trying to manipulate markets. We want to have fair, balanced competition. But in a case right now where we're being used punitively, where there aren't emergencies and they're taking powers away from Congress, that's what this is really about. So I see consistency in how we're using this case and how we're using this in the impacts of tariffs. Very consistent, but it is odd to me to have free trade Republicans fearful to speak out, and you have the Canadian government using the standard bearer for the American Republican Party, Ronald Reagan, against themselves.
I mean, could I just add to that? I'm a former Republican, okay? I'm a former Republican from the great state of Arizona. It is insane and bizarre that we have a president of the United States right now who is engaged in an almost 18% national sales tax that violates the Constitution and violates federal law. So this is not the Republican Party that I used to belong to at all, ever. It is not something that Republicans used to believe in, but they are now allowing it to happen out of the White House and saying nothing about it in Congress.
You only got one question about remedies from Justice Barrett. I'm wondering what you made of that question generally, and what specifically you think what an adequate remedy would look like from this court in this case.
Look, when I think about remedies of what this president has done, because I'm absolutely positive that his lawyers looked him in the eyes and said, hey, what you're doing is debatably not constitutional. You debatably don't have the power to do it. He did it anyway, and he did it in a way that our small businesses and consumers and everybody across this country are paying for the bill. I teach my son, when you screw up, you make it right. And I believe that's what the president needs to do.
So what specifically does that look like? Like a refund for all Oregonian importers, or what exactly were you hoping that relief looks like here?
No, the implementation of how you make it right needs to be done in a conversation with the appropriate government agencies. In a perfect world, right? If you paid a given tariff out as a small business, especially when you've got small margins to get through each month, that money should be repaid back.
I just want to make a comment about state AGs who have come together. First, I want to say I'm very proud to be with this incredible coalition of AGs who've together brought over 50 cases. I want to also say that we're winning over 80% of these cases, so we're prevailing. We don't ask ourselves a partisan question, we ask ourselves a legal question. Is the president breaking the law? That's the only question. If the law and the facts indicate that he is, and he's hurting our states, then we sue him. If the facts and the law indicate that he's complying with the law, we don't sue him. We don't want to sue him. We hope that the president will follow the law. Not a lot to ask that the president of the United States of America follow the law and comply with the Constitution, but he is repeatedly breaking the law. And so we meet him at the boundaries of his authority, and we say, you shall not cross here, you cannot pass here, you cannot move beyond this authority and do unlawful things. You can only do lawful things. And so that's why we're here today. And the unlawful action that he has taken is hurting the American people, hurting the people in our states, hurting businesses, families, and workers, and we're here to make things right, and hopefully we'll get a remedy from this court. Thank you.
If the president uses Section 338 to impose similar tariffs, are we going to be back here in a few months?
We'll have to see what he does next. This, as the advocates for the states and for our side had indicated, this is about whether he has the authority under IEPA. He doesn't. So if he's going to impose, maybe he'll say, I'm not going to impose any tariffs. I was unlawful, you stopped me, I'm done. Maybe he'll say, I will come back. We'll have to assess what he does and what they look like, and we'll have to match his actions to the law to see if it complies. Again, if it doesn't comply, we'll sue him. If it does comply, then he may do lawful things, as I've stated. So we'll have to assess what he does next and decide our next action based on that assessment.
Did we tire you out? No. So I think the question was, do we have a backup plan if the Supreme Court doesn't rule our way? And so I think we all feel like we're going to wait for this court to rule. We feel good about the arguments that were made, and we feel good about the questions that came back from this bench. And so, we are hoping for a positive result. We are hoping that this court will decide that the administration violated the Constitution and IEPA. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But I'll tell you what, these tariffs need to go away. We needed to slay this dragon called tariffs or taxes because the people of this country are hurting. They are now laboring under the triple whammy of ACA price increases, SNAP benefits not coming through in Thanksgiving, and tariffs that are driving up inflation. We need to win this case, and we're really hoping that we do.
Thank you. We got time for one more question. One or two.
Hey, do you know if Mr. Gutman practiced the donut hole pastry line? Is that on the fly?
It's actually dominated the last month of our interaction. We were like, do we want to do a croissant? Do we want to pronounce it the way that the French pronounce croissant? Are we going to stay American and pronounce? Are those croissants tariffed? A lot of questions that we've had over the last month to prepare for this moment in time. Yeah.
The other last report reading was over the non-delegation doctrine. It's been so long since it's been brought up. Tell us how long it's been. It's been just like a new conflict, right? We had to deal with this conflict between branches.
Yeah, I think that's true because it's been a long time since we've had a president who was willing to violate the Constitution on a near weekly basis. And so we are seeing concepts come up like the non-delegation doctrine, like separation of powers, that haven't been a problem for hundreds of years or certainly decades. And so, yeah, the Supreme Court is having to grapple with these concepts, and we are having to file lawsuits based on them because no president has violated the law and the Constitution as much as this one has.
Last question.
General Rayfield, you mentioned consistency before. Just to follow up my question before, do you see consistency in how Democratic attorney generals and governments have applied the major questions doctrine previously during the Biden era and now?
Yeah, and I can't speak to how prior AGs have applied the major questions because people have been on both sides of this fence throughout the way. But what we talk about is what is the current structure of our case law here in America today. That is what needs to be applied to the rules that are going on right now. And the truth of the matter is, you heard them today talk about that $4 trillion of tariff revenue. If you use even 25%, that's lower than the math that they told the justice. That's a $1 trillion hidden tax on the American people. $1 trillion. And there wasn't a single vote taken in that building over there. And that's what the Constitution requires when you're raising revenue in this country. And right now, if you allow this, the president to continue to do this, you can raise taxes on anything. Hidden taxes, left and right, on any good, any amount, for any duration, and all of us are going to pay the cost. That's why this is so important, and kind of getting back to the question, if we were to lose this case, it's an important conversation for the American people to say, is this what we really want in our country? And it allows Congress to have information to cabin the authority of the president if we are, because this is an American conversation because we're all paying for it as Americans.